We have a quorum. I call the meeting order. In the 2026 legislative session, as at the last meeting, we have approved 4 items with an amount of $39,971,400,000. There are 2 items for proposal on today's agenda, both new proposals. They involved a total commitment of $697.2 million. If all funding proposals are approved by members, the total number of items approved stands at 6, with a total commitment of $40,668,600,000, excluding the block allocation of $22.7477 billion of land acquisition and computerization program. The total commitment of works amounts to $17.929 billion. Let me remind members, if there is any direct or indirect pecuniary interest with the items under discussion, please disclose the nature of the interest before you speak under Rule 83A of the ROP. I'd also like to draw members' attention to voting on items with a direct pecuniary interest under Rule 84 of the ROP. Item 1, 89T1, Public Transport Interchange near Kwai, Tsuen, Yuen, paper number PWSC, bracket 2026 to 27, number 2. This paper recommends the upgrading of this project to Cat A at an estimated cost of $349.2 million in money of the day prices. On the 30th of March, the administration has consulted the panel on housing. Members support the submission of the proposal to the subcommittee for discussion. Relevant deliberation main points has been emailed to members on the 18th of May this year. We have representatives from the CEDD, from the Housing Department, as well as from the Transport Department. I'm not going to read out their names. Members, if you would like to ask questions or speak, please press the Request to Speak button. I see that there are currently 8 members. Let me read out their order and the names. Ms. Christine Fong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Dennis Leung, Mr. Stanley Ng, Mr. Lam Chung Sing, Mr. Kitson Young, Mr. Robert Lee, and Mr. Hong Kam In. Given the time we have, I suggest that it's 4 minutes question and answers included for members. Ms. Christine Fong. This is a public works project near Kwai Tsuen in Yuen, a PTI with a cost of $349.2 million. I support the direction. However, I have some questions for details. I see that in this PTI there is 1 parking bay for 3 green minibuses, pickup drop-off point or charging, and 1 parking bay for 8 taxis, pickup drop-off or charging. That is a good design. There are also 6 pickup drop-off bays for franchised buses. I'd like to ask, will there be a facility with air-conditioned waiting area? This is a site of 12,300 square meters. It's just half of the size of a similar project in Tung Chung approved by us. I'd like to ask if there is any standard for a PTI. I fear that minibuses may say that there are charging facilities in Kwai Tsuen and not in other places. If there is not enough space, will you be able to install charging facilities for other road users or other operators. In relation to the PTI, is there a standard accommodation of schedules? Because if there is none, perhaps you need to add more charging points. Who will take this question? Assistant Director of Housing, Ms. Ellen Ngan. I thank the member for the question. Thank you, member, for her support. In this project, there are 10 pickup drop-off points with charging, 6 for franchise buses and 3 for minibuses. The 3 for minibuses are come with charging points. There are also 8 taxi pickup points and some with charging facilities. We don't have any plans to build an air-conditioned waiting area. We want to adopt an environmental design by using the natural environment and natural ventilation. So there is no air-conditioned waiting area. Regarding the area of 12,300 square meters, we have spoken to different departments in relation to the accommodation. We have heard requests that if parking bay comes with charging facilities, it will be readily available for users. Is there a standard for PTIs? Perhaps I will defer to my colleagues. Is it Mr. Kwai from the Transport Department? Sorry, it's Principal Transport Officer, Ms. Vivian Kwai. I thank the member for the question. Regarding charging facilities, the Environmental Protection Department has given us guidelines that in relation to new PTIs, if possible, we will install charging facilities for transport operators. This PTI are for franchise buses, green minibuses, and taxis. Hence, charging facilities are provided for these modes of transport. I think Ms. Fong is asking if there are charging facilities installed in other PTIs. For new ones, yes. But for existing or old ones without charging facilities, we will have to first talk to the Environmental Protection Department to see if new charging facilities are to be installed in nearby areas for other operators. I have follow-up questions. Maybe you'll need to wait till the next round. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. I'd like to ask more questions about the project cost. In March, Area 133B PTI at Tung Chung, I've asked similar questions in relation to building services, ventilation. What is the standard? I'm sure that you have a set of standard. The reply I got at that time was that you would take into account the site conditions as well as the voltage required before you design the building services. So, What are the considerations of the site condition of this project before you arrive at the conclusion? If you don't have the information at hand, please give it to me after the meeting. Another question is about recurrent expenditure. It's about $10 or so, similar to the project in Tung Chung, but there is a rising trend. We're talking about 6.8 million in operating expenditure and 9.7 million in maintenance expenditure. The project in Tung Chung is quite high. How come? Are any special reasons? Do we hear from Ms. Ngan? I thank the member for the question. This project is different from Tung Chung because this one opens to 2 sides and the one in Tung Chung opens to 3 sides of the PTI. The PTI here is on the lowest podium of 3. One side of it is a retaining wall, hence the PTI opens to only 2 sides. Because of the site constraint, we have to incorporate a mechanical ventilation. There are 9 sets of air intake and air out and air exhaustion. So 18 sets. They will be installed quite close to the PTI. So in terms of building services, there are more. There are also charging points. These drive the recurrent expenditure to a higher level than that of Tung Chung. Anything else to add? I understand that charging facilities are not standard installations. Perhaps in the future or for this project, you can give us a breakdown so that we can have a more detailed consideration. It's about $3.2 million in maintenance expenditure for the charging facilities. Do you need further information? Or you're satisfied with the $3.2 million maintenance cost? I'll accept that. Next, Mr. Dennis Leung. I am a member of the housing panel. We've asked some questions. I would like to seek further clarification with the details. The site is in a hill, so we're very concerned about air ventilation. There is a PTI in Taiwan that opens to 2 sides, but at the PTI is hot and noisy. There are ventilation machines installed, but that will only increase the noise. For this project in Kwai, Tsuen, there is only 1 ingress-egress. Our questions about ventilation and noise abatement have not been answered. Please give us more information. Please give us data in relation to circulation. My second question is about charging points. There are 10 parking bays for franchise buses. In relation to direct current fast charging, there is only one shared by different vehicles. Even with a current of 100 ampere, if there are several vehicles charging at the same time, that means each will only have maybe 30 to 40 amperes. So how many cables will there be? What is the current supplied? If there are 10 franchise buses doing the fast charging, what will they be like? How long will it take?
Ms. Alan Yan. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Leung, for your questions. Concerning the ventilation system of the PTI, as I said, there will be 2 ventilation points. Now, on one side, it is on the southwest south side, where the summer monsoon wind would blow. So we have made the opening wider to allow more air to come in through the inlet during summertime. So I think we need not worry too much about that. We have conducted a microclimate study to support the design. And at the detailed design stage, we will further enhance the design of the PTI to allow more prevailing wind to come in. Concerning noise, inside the PTI, there will be acoustic mitigations to reduce the resonance by 60 decibels per minute. So with these measures, the noise will be mitigated. On the charging facilities for franchise buses, it is the capacity is 200 kilowatts. Now for minibuses and taxis, it's 100 kilowatts. So all those facilities would operate individually. They are not shared. Mr. Stanley, thank you, Chairman. Now this PTI at Tsuen is necessary. We support the project, but we are concerned whether it is worth the money. In other words, whether the facilities will be able to meet the needs. So can the government convince us by way of figures? So there will be an additional 18,000 population in the area. So concerning the additional demand for traffic capacity, will the PTI be able to meet the additional population? And what about the traffic demand during peak hours? Will the traffic system be able to cope with the additional traffic flow? That's the most important thing. Concerning ventilation and charging facility, I will not labor on those points. Assistant Director, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Ng. Now, when designing the projects, the CDD has conducted traffic impact assessment. Now, according to this study, after the completion of the project, the road network within the districts will be able to cope with the additional demand. We will continue to communicate with other departments to minimize the impact of the project on the nearby road network. On whether the capacity of the PTI will be able to cope with the additional traffic demand brought about by the additional population of 18,000, I will defer the question to the Transport Department. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. Now, the design capacity of pickup and drop-off bays for franchise buses and minibuses at the PTI are based on the population estimation conducted when designing the district. When demand rises, we can increase the number of parking bays for franchise bus accordingly. We can arrange for more than one bus route to conduct pickup and drop-off at a single parking bay when necessary. So we will be sure that there are enough bus services for the residents. What about the statistics? And can the government provide more figures to prove that the PTI will be able to cope with the additional traffic demand during peak hours? Chairman, allow us to supplement the data to the member after the meeting. We will summarize the data in the traffic impact assessment for the member. Next, Mr. Lam Chen Sing. Thank you, Chairman. On whether there will be indoor air-conditioned waiting area. Now, according to the government, the PTIs are not large enough for that, but I don't think that's the true reason. This one is quite large, 12,300 square meters, much larger than those in Tongchong and Zhengshui. There is also one PTI with indoor air-conditioned waiting area in Ma'anshan, and this one is even larger than that PTI. I think there are some other considerations behind the decision. Now, for this PTI, there is a staircase leading to covered areas and shopping malls. So I suggest installing a display panel to show the waiting time so that elderly people can wait in the shopping mall and walk to the bus station when the bus arrives. Now, this PTI is quite far away from the future Hongshui Station and the Xiuhong Station. Now, Route 11 is near this PTI as well. Now, via Route 11, passengers can reach other parts of Hong Kong conveniently. So with the development of the Northern Metropolis, there may be a lot more bus routes traveling along Route 11. So is the current estimation for the number of pickup drop-off bays sufficient to cope? Now, the recurrent expenditure is $16.55 million for this one, much higher than the other two in Tongchong and Zhengshui. Now, true, this PTI is larger than those two, but does that mean the recurrent expenditure will be this much more expensive? Ms. Ellen Yan. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Lam. Concerning the question on waiting room, indeed, the PTI is at the lowest podium of a public housing estate, and there are other retail facilities and space for residents' enjoyments nearby. So with these facilities, we will seek to install display panel to show the waiting time for buses. In fact, many passengers are using mobile phones to check the arrival time of buses. So the technology can also help residents to wait for the bus in a more comfortable setting. Now concerning the proximity with Hong Shui Kiu Station and Route 11. Now when designing the PTI, we have been collaborating closely with the Transport Department. Now concerning the alignments as well as the routes, I will defer that to the Transport Department. What about the recurrent expenditure? So maybe you can answer the question on recurrent expenditure first. Now the recurrent expenditure is $16.55 million. Compared with those in Zhongzhou and Shangshui is more expensive. However, the area is larger. The average cost is $1,346. It's comparable to those in Shangshui and Tongchong. Ms. Vivian Kwan, the question on parking bays. Thank you. Now, first of all, about the number of pickup drop-off bays. Now, besides parking at bus stations, bus companies have bus terminals for buses to park. Say, for example, in Yuen. Now, this is for parking overnight and for maintenance operations. So the PTI is near Yuen. So besides parking inside the PTI in Kwai, buses can also be deployed from the nearby bus terminals to pick up the passengers. Now concerning the bus routes passing by Kwai, like most housing estates in the new territories, we can foresee there will be bus routes connecting the housing estates to the nearby train stations. Now for Kwai, it would be Hong Shui Kiu Station. There will also be green mass transit system. We will be sure there's shuttle connection between those systems with the housing estates and also with the Route 11 built. Residents in Kwai can reach other parts of Hong Kong conveniently. Mr. Kissenyang. Thank you, Chairman. I support the project as a whole, but I have some reservation about charging facilities. At the previous meeting at the panel on housing, I said as much. Now, the department has given me some written information, but my questions still exist. Now, there are some 82 electric buses traveling 50 routes. These are mostly short routes within the distance of 20 kilometers. Now, the longer routes are 112, 170, 171, and 904. The longest one is 170, is some 35 kilometers long. Now, the model is a BYD. The capacity is 516 kilowatts with a capacity of 300 kilometers. So it can travel five times per day, provided that they are fully charged. So they can last a day's operation. Now, if all these bus routes traveling via Kwai are all short route buses, then it would be sufficient. 200 kilowatts charging capacity would be sufficient. However, if the bus routes are longer, for example, from Kwai to Central, it's 80 kilometers round trip. So on that premises, 15 minutes charging is not enough. With one single charge of 15 minutes per day, the bus can only last 5 trips. Unless there are lots of buses for the route, otherwise you have to charge the bus for 30 minutes at least. So the only way to work around it is to enhance the charging capacity of the charging post. Now the 200 kilowatts charging post will not suffice in the future. So can we install superchargers instead? If we stick to this design, I'm worried that they will be insufficient in the future. Now in 3 or 4 years' time, the battery capacity of the buses may become 1,000 K. But that still brings the problem of shortage of charging posts. There are only 6 pickup and drop-off bays. So each route, let's say there are 4 buses for each route. Even if the battery capacity of the buses have become higher, you still can't fully charge them. So the only way forward is to upgrade the charging capacity of the charging post. And you have to start now. I'm worried that when the PDI is completed, the charging facility will be outdated.
提供咗一啲
Mr. Young has provided you with figures to ask whether there is whether the charging facilities provided are sufficient. I heard from the administration that you've done studies before and found them to be sufficient. Who would like to take this question? I'll start first. We follow the guidelines of the EPD in relation to charging facilities. For buses, minibuses, 200 kilometers, and for buses is 100. For taxis and minibuses, 200. We will start with this capacity. If there is an increased demand based on the information supplied by the EPD, we may adjust the charging capacity using the stored capacity. It's just like using stored power to boost the speed of the charger. Technologies of charging facilities develop rapidly. We will closely monitor the market situation. In 2026, we understand that the relevant guideline will be revised. We will tie in with our efforts whenever there are updates. I now defer to the Transport Department. Ms. Kwan, anything to add? I thank the member for the comment and questions. The infrastructure follow the 2023 EPD guidelines. Yes, when it comes to charging speed, charging facilities, there can be add-ons. We'll liaise with bus operators. When formulating relevant guidelines, the EPD will liaise with bus operators to ensure that the facilities provided will meet the needs. Next, Mr. Robert Lee. This is a PTI near 10 Kwai in Yuen. It has a project cost of $349 million. I support it. I was a part of the discussion at the housing panel. I thank the department for the detailed presentation. There will be an additional population of 18,000 in this area. So there will be an increased demand. The capital expenditure for 2030 to 31 will increase to about $170 million, almost 100% increase. So where does the major expenditure go to compared to similar projects? In relation to the impact on the environment, the paper talks about 10.4% of non-inert construction waste to be transported to landfills, 1,500 tons. Is it a high or low level? Is there any room for further reduction of the impact to the environment? Do we hear from Ms. Ngan of the Housing Department? The project expenditure will peak at 2030 and 31. For projects like this, the expenditure will peak towards the end, and that is a normal pattern. Regarding environmental measures, will require the contractor to separate and treat construction waste. Will require the contractor to submit mitigation measures. Will require contractors to reduce the amount of waste to be transported to landfills. I hope this answers the member's question. The government has set targets in relation to landfills by 2030. So, are there any ways to reduce the amount? If you don't have the information, I would like to get the information afterwards. We will supply the information after the meeting. Next, Mr. Hong came in. There is a need to have this PTI. I have some further questions. Paragraph 3B. Construction of 2 regulators' office and a toilet for franchise bus operators. What about taxi drivers and minibus drivers? I strongly ask for the toilet to be open to taxis and minibus drivers, not just for franchise bus operators. My other question is paragraph 12. The phased expenditure from 26 to 34 is a span of 8 years. So from design to completion, it will take 8 years. Is it excessively long? I'd like to hear some explanations. Another question is paragraph 11. We're all concerned about ventilation. There will be a high efficient mechanical ventilation system installed. How many PTIs have adopted the concept of a microclimate? I think there is a difference between how people feel and what your microclimate says. We need further improvement. In the end, In a lot of these PTIs, powerful fans have to be installed. Can you improve the ventilation of the proposed PTI? Ms. Ngan? Thank you. The toilet for bus operators. When we were working out with the design facilities with departments, it was for the sole use of bus operators. Other users or members of the public can use toilets in the retail facilities in the shopping mall. I'll defer to the Transport Department about the use by other users. The span of 8 years. The construction will complete in 4 years. There are 3 phases. The PTI will take 4 years. The public housing project construction will continue. It will only complete in 2032. There will be expenditure in 33 to 34. They are expenditure involved in a post-contract period. It's a long period of time because the project has to be conducted in 3 phases. We conduct microclimate studies. We've been using this approach for years for housing department projects. Based on the result of the studies, we will fine-tune the specifications and designs in relation to ventilation and air extraction. I now defer to the Transport Department in relation to the use of the toilet. Ms. Kwan. Thank you. We follow the latest standard and guidelines in the use of a toilet. Franchise buses have designated routes. So when franchise bus drivers, they can use the facilities, say the waiting room and a toilet at the PTI. For taxis, they can use a toilet that's convenient to them. Minibus drivers can use the toilets in shopping malls when they open. We talked to the operators of shopping malls. It's their practice to open their toilets to commercial vehicle drivers. There are still 4 members waiting to speak for the first time. There are 3 members indicating that they'd like to speak for the second time. I suggest that after Mr. Lam Wai Kong has finished asking his questions, I'll draw the line. Members, if you'd like to comment or ask questions in relation to this project, please come to the conference room to give an indication. Those who would like to speak for the second time, please make good use of your time.
Mr. Lam Wai Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I support in principle the construction of the PTI in Yuen Long. Several follow-up questions. Now, first of all, I thank Mr. Hong Kam Yin for his concern about the difficulties faced by professional taxi drivers. Now, the toilet is mainly for bus drivers. However, for minibus drivers, they don't have a lot of time between shifts to locate a toilet. So that would reduce the efficiency of minibus services. So I think there should be a better arrangement. Second, charging facility for taxis. Now, there is only one ingress-egress for the PTI. Now, for buses and minibuses, there would be a dispatch for managing the queue for charging. However, that's not the case for drivers. So will there be information provided to drivers in advance concerning the number of charging posts available to reduce the queue? And what if there is a long queue for charging by taxis? Now, the PTI will serve several types of public transport, including buses, minibuses, and taxis. So if there are accidents in the PTI, will the government be able to expeditiously clear the scene? Ms. Ellen Yan. Thank you. Now, concerning the question of toilets, the Transport Department will continue to liaise with the bus company to make the toilets available to minibus drivers and even taxi drivers where necessary. Now, the toilets in the retail facilities of Housing Department projects will be located on the same floor as the PTI, as per members' views, so as to allow users of the PTI to find them easily. Now, concerning charging facilities, now according to the plan, EPD will be tasked to manage the facilities. So we will pass on the members' views to the EPD to see whether there will be information displayed to tell taxi drivers about the waiting time for charging posts. Concerning the ingress-egress of PTI, although that is the case, in our design we have provided separate roles for buses, minibuses, and taxis to enter and exit the PTI. So beyond the point of ingress and egress, they will not be sharing the same route. So whenever there are accidents in the PTI, they should be dealt with expeditiously. Next, Mr. Jonathan Stewart-Lamport. Thank you. 2 questions. First, fire safety. Now, on the ground floor of the podium, there are 10 parking bays for franchise bus parking or charging. So buses use lithium batteries. When there are malfunctioning, they would cause fire hazard. So are there any fire safety measures for the parking bays to prevent fire caused by lithium batteries overheating? Now, about the retaining wall. Now, the area next to the retaining wall is the ancestral grave or ancestral cemetery of indigenous residents, so extra support must be given. So after the commissioning of the retaining wall, which departments will bear the cost for maintaining and monitoring the retaining wall? Ms. Ellen Yan? Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Member. Concerning the charging facility, now it is part of the public housing estate structure. So the charging facilities are designed in accordance with fire safety standard for public housing estates. So those charging facilities are up to fire safety standards. Concerning the retaining wall near the ancestral cemetery and the retaining walls near the PTI, so for the part surrounding the PTI, they would be maintained by the Highways Department. For the retaining walls near the ancestral cemetery, the question is which department will bear the cost of maintaining the walls. Now for the retaining walls within the village boundary, it would be us, the housing department, to maintain the walls. So the government will be responsible for maintaining the retaining walls within the estate's boundary. Why would require additional information from the government concerning which departments will bear the cost of maintenance? Indeed, fire safety, there are global reports of lithium battery accidents, so there should be more information provided to us concerning fire safety in relation to lithium batteries to allay the concern of residents. So please clarify the issues, including lithium batteries safety. If there is a public housing estate on top, would there be extra fire safety requirements? Now, the government has said risk assessment has been conducted already, but please give us additional information about a retaining wall. I think there should be a more clear delineation of responsibility. Please give us the additional information after the meeting. Next, Mr. Aaron Bok. Thank you. I declare interest. I am the director of a one-man consultancy firm, and I'm also the non-executive director of 2 construction companies. Now, first of all, on ventilation, you will be using high efficiency and cost and energy saving ventilation system. Now, according to the impression drawing, it seems that there is room to open up some parts of the ceiling to let light in. Now, according to view A of the impression drawing, it seems that the PDI would be very dark and you have to use artificial lighting. Now, the modern design should be natural lighting. It seems that on top of the PDI is a garden. So a more ideal way to do it would be open up parts of the ceiling to let light and air in. Now about toilets. In paragraph 3b, the toilet is only for franchised bus drivers. Is that the usual case? Are the toilets in PTIs only for bus drivers but not the public and drivers of other public transport? Well, we have built the toilets already. Why are we not making it available for more? Now, 2 members have followed up on the question of toilets. Actually, the government has answered the question already. On the first question about whether we can create some inlets on the ceiling for light and air, Ms. Ellen Ngan. Thank you. Now the impression drawing, it seems that the cover of the PDI will block all the light and air. Now actually, on top of the PDI is a public housing development project. So besides residential areas, there are also non-residential areas under our project, including private car parks. So actually, there is a car park on top of the PDI, and also there are other social welfare and community facilities. So there are 78 stories between the PDI and the podium garden. So we can't really open it up to let light and air in. So I think that's still feasible. You can ask your own architects. At the detailed design stage, we will discuss this matter with our architects and see whether we can open up some inlets for light and air at appropriate locations. I think the government has got your message. These will be considered in the future design. What about toilets? By way of supplement, now the bus companies have requested for resting areas for bus drivers. I was asking whether this is the standard practice, that toilets are just for bus drivers' use. Now the design is in accordance with the PDI's standard design. I don't think she has answered my question. I don't understand why the government is only paying for a toilet specifically for bus drivers. That doesn't make sense. I will defer the question to the Transport Department. Ms. Vivian Kwan. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Bok, for your questions. In PDIs, there are resting areas for bus drivers with toilets. That's the latest requirements according to the standard. So that's the case for all new PDIs. I understand that, but why are you not making available the toilets for other drivers as well? It's public money. Now, after the construction of the PDI, bus companies will be tasked with operating and maintaining the PDI, which will also pay rent to the relevant government departments. So as I said, if other public transport operators have the need, bus company would provide convenience to them as well. Now, on whether a public toilet is justified, the FEHD would conduct an assessment to see whether a public facility requires a public toilet. So as Ms. Ellen Yan has mentioned, besides the bus company's toilets, there are other toilets in the shopping mall for the public, including other commercial vehicle drivers. If there is urgent need, we would communicate with the bus company for them to help out.
If need be, you can follow up after the meeting. The design has been finalized. The administration has already said that if need be, they will talk to bus operators to open the use of the toilet for other drivers. Mr. Bok is not the only member concerned about this point. Members can follow up on this issue with the administration through other platforms. Next, Mr. Chong Ho Fong, Mr. Mark Chong. I think this PTI is mainly for Phase 3 public housing estates. There will be additional population that will generating demand. Existing residents and students, as well as parents, told us about their concern in relation to public transport. Along Tan Kwai Chun Road is a dual carriageway, both directions. It's very difficult to use the road because of a serious congestion. The administration told me when I asked that the most difficult time has already passed. But residents have gone through a tough time when public housing construction was underway previously, so they are now concerned again whether construction traffic will cause congestion by using nearby roads. So will the construction traffic go via Tan Kwai Chun Road to go to Castle Peak Road? Residents are very concerned about a possible Phase 4 Tan Kwai Chun public housing estate project because they see the government acquiring land southwest of the area. Ms. Ngan, I'll first answer questions relating to transport. Construction vehicles will use certain roads. The CEDD is working at full steam. They want to widen a nearby road to cater for the additional traffic. We will liaise closely with the CEDD. We will monitor the construction traffic. We'll make arrangements to minimize the impact on traffic to nearby residents. There won't be, we don't have any plans for phases 4 and 5 of the housing estate. We'll now hear from the CEDD. The site is undergoing site formation. Progress is satisfactory. We will hand over the site to the housing department at the end of the year. The number of vehicles has been reducing. At the beginning of the year is 300, but now is about 100 or so. We closely monitor traffic flow. We've dispatched additional traffic ambassadors to assist, say, users to cross the roads. We've also installed CCTVs to monitor traffic flow. We have diversion arrangements in place to avoid the peak. We'll closely liaise with the housing department. We will bring the impact to a minimum. Will there be a road connecting to Tan Kwai Chun Road after the completion of the PTI? The CDD will build a new road. It's near Yuen Highway. After population intake with the commissioning of the PTI, traffic can go via Shen Lao Street or go via northwest through the new road to Tin Shui Wai West PTI, and there's also a connecting road to Shentat Street. There are 3 roads diverting traffic to different directions. So there will be a new road and the use of other roads. Yes, 3 roads for traffic to go. Ms. Julia Lau. I am an alternate director of a bus operator. I'd like to follow up on a question of ventilation. The ACH, that is complete exchange of air per hour, what is the current standard? I understand that the standard for HCH of PTI has improved. Do you have any plans to enhance the ventilation standard? We'll hear from Ms. Ngan. Thank you. The current design is no less than 15 times of air exchange. This complies with the existing specification. In relation to the EPD standard, the CO concentration will not exceed 200. For carbon monoxide, it will not exceed 30,000 milligrams per cubic meter. We have a smart system. When ventilation is poor, the mechanical ventilation machine will kick in. Any follow-up? We're talking about improved air quality. People may have different standards. When you are actually there, may feel different. Will you enhance the standard? Ms. Lau, I think you are asking a policy question. They have followed the existing standard. As to whether there is any room for improvement of the standard, I think the government will take that into account when they are reviewing the standards. We said we follow the standard, which is a minimum standard. But wherever possible, we will maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of our systems. After I have announced that a line is drawn, a member indicated they would like to speak. I'm sorry that we have to ensure good time management. We also have to put the item to vote. The first round has ended. So, sorry, Ms. Chow, Mr. Chow. There are 3 members waiting to speak for the second time. 2 minutes question and answers included. Please be concise and give time for the administration to answer. We have Mr. Dennis Leung, Mr. Kissen Young, and Ms. Christine Fong. 2 minutes. Mr. Young. I also like to ask about air circulation. It says that the prevailing wind will come from southwest, but there is a hill at the back. There is only a small ingress-egress. So will there be any air going in? Because the back is fully enclosed. Will there be air flowing in? I don't know if the assistant director is an engineer. If not, I hope that there will be other people answering the question. Yes, there will be 200 kilowatts, but when it comes to power, we talk about the voltage as well as the current. I want more information. How many power cables will there be to support 10 franchise buses charging at the rate of 200 kilowatts at the same time? Ms. Ngan. Thank you. I said that on 2 sides of the PTI there are retaining walls, but it's not the case that the structure is completely pushed to the retaining wall. There'll be a minimum width of 2 to 3 meters earmarked, kept for the maintenance of the retaining wall. I said there will be mechanical ventilation system. Given the narrow space, we want to use the mechanical system to pump air in. The location is southwest south. We want to and make it easy for air to go into the PTI. Can you give us a simple answer about the power of the charging facilities? This is the preliminary stage. We have not yet discussed about the number of power cables to be put into the PTI with power companies. We'll ensure that the number of power cables will support the individual power of each charging facilities. I am a senior consultant of CLP. Mr. Yang. But it's said that at the end of the year there will be an updated guideline for charging facilities. Will you update the design accordingly? The assistant director said that if there is a need to increase the power, something will be done. It will be increased. She talked about the stored power. I don't know how big it is. Well, if the storage facility is the size of the bench of the chairperson, then you need that space. You have to fully consider what will happen in the future. Without doing so, you talk about stored power facilities. We're not talking about a pocket-sized facility. If you want to change them to superchargers, then the specifications will be different, which will in turn change your design. You will have to be very clear about that. Ms. Ngan? Thank you. I mentioned that the EPD will update their guidelines. Construction will start at the end of next year. In the meantime, if there is any update of guidelines and if they can be incorporated in a design, we will work with the EPD and update our design as far as possible. Next, Ms. Christine Fong, speaking for the second time, 2 minutes. Ms. Ngan said that she has reservation in relation to the air-conditioned waiting area. Members have asked about air ventilation, ingress, egress. Your design follows the 2023 EPD guideline. I think that you need to rethink on a number of things in relation to EPD issues, environmental issues, as well as FSDs. We see some air-conditioned waiting areas, which is good. I ask for more CCTVs to facilitate management. There will be recurrent expenditure over $10 million, but you don't use AIs. Rear staircase has an impact on fire safety. And they talked, would you install fire damper and sprinklers? Members' concerns are reasonable. There will be a large amount of charging facilities. I'm concerned about fire safety with lithium batteries.
Ms. Ellen Yan, Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Fong. On fire safety, we are aware of members' concerns and we will communicate closely with the relevant departments concerning the potential risk brought about by charging. We will minimize the risk. Concerning the installation of dampers and shutters, we will study whether we can install them as well. Concerning air-conditioned waiting area, many members have brought up this point. Now we are just following the design requirements handed on to us by the Transport Department. So far, there is no requirement for an air-conditioned waiting area. Now, where practicable, we will discuss with the Transport Department to enhance the waiting experience of passengers in the PTI. Indeed, many members have asked about the usage of the driver's restroom. So please respond to these questions from members. They represent the views of many users as well. So that concludes the question of the second round. I now put the proposal to a vote. Those who support the proposal set out in paper PWSC 2026-7-2, please raise your hands. Those against the proposal, please raise your hands. I think most of the members in the vote support the proposal. The proposal is passed. Concerning whether the Finance Committee should conduct further discussion on this item, in accordance with paragraph 41A of the procedure of the Public Works Subcommittee, I now put to vote the following question: that this subcommittee suggests further discussion of the proposal set out in paper PWSC 2026-7-2 by the Finance Committee. I remind members that if the question is passed, it means that this subcommittee suggests further discussion of the paper by the FC. If it is negative, it means that the subcommittee does not suggest further discussion of the paper by the FC. Those who support the question, please raise your hands. 2, 3. Those against, please raise your hands. I think most of the members in the vote are against the question. The question is negative. The subcommittee does not suggest further discussion of paper PWSC 2026-7-2 by the FC. Members, the discussion of this item has concluded. I thank government officials for attending the meeting. Moving on to the next item, will the relevant government officials please come in? Item 2. 447 DS Rehabilitation and Construction of Sewage Rising Mains Package 2, Kowloon and Southern District. Members, please refer to paper PWSC 2026-7. Members are invited to upgrade projects 447 DS to Category A at an estimated cost of $348 million in money of the day prices. On the 27th of April this year, the government has consulted the panel on environmental affairs concerning this proposed project. Members generally supported the submission of this proposal to the PWSC for consideration. The salient points of the panel's decision has been sent to members via email on the 18th of May. public officers, the attendance of this item are Ms. Sabrina Law from the FS, Ms. Karen Shane from the EB, as well as officials from the Drainage Services Department, as well as the EPD. The names have been set out on the agenda. Members who would like to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. So far, there are 12. I will first read out their names. Mr. Moon Kit, Kissen Yang, Chen Pui Leung, Lam Chen Sing, Andrew Lam, Ms. Michelle Tang, Mr. Chen Hock Fong, Lau Ka Keung, Jonathan Lambert, Ms. Christine Fong, Mr. Dennis Leung, and Mr. Mark Zhong. So far, there are 12 members. Considering that we will have the council at 11 a.m., we have to manage the time strictly. I will draw the line here, and each member will have 4 minutes. Questions and answers included. I remind members to keep your questions succinct and allow sufficient time for the administration to reply. Let's try to allow more members to speak before we put the proposal to vote. Mr. Moon Kit, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Now, the sewage rising main project will last 3.5 years, so there will be many monsoon and typhoon seasons in between. Extreme weather has posed risk to projects, especially along the coastal areas like Aberdeen and Apalachao, as well as low-lying areas. Now, under the threat of extreme climate, are there any emergency plans? Now, second, the government said they will introduce optic sensor system to monitor pipe bursts. So these smart sensor system, how much will they account for in the total construction cost? Now, in the long run, how much will these smart technologies save for the government in terms of maintenance? Which government official will take the questions? Director of Drainage Services, Mr. Ringo Mok. Thank you, Chairman. The first question on rainy and typhoon seasons. Now, we will adopt measures to mitigate these risks for our construction sites. For example, we will establish an emergency drainage system during rainy season, and also we will put up protective measures during typhoons to strengthen protection for construction sites exposed to downpours and typhoon. Before the rainy and typhoon seasons, we will conduct inspections more frequently. Now, second question on optic fiber enabled sensors. Now, in the past, when the DSD conducts tests for pipe leakage, we would use the acoustic method to look for leakages. And also there are electromagnetic testing, and also there's smart balls testing. Now, the greatest issue we have now is that our design is old. They are mostly single pipe discharge rising mains. So several years ago, we have already set a standard for twin pipe sewage rising mains. Now, for single pipe discharge rising mains, with our testing technologies, even with our testing technologies, the results were not admirable. So now we are using fiber optics to enhance our testing capacity. So in terms of cost, after the commissioning of the project, we will work it out with the suppliers, but we don't think the cost will be too expensive. It's just putting an optic fiber in the pipe sleeves, and we have already set aside a budget in our emergency provision or contingency provision. Mr. Kisson-Yang, thank you, Chairman. I support the project. It is really necessary. Especially, there are two projects in my constituency, one in Sampo Kong and Prince Edward East, the other one in Whampoa Garden. So for the one in Prince Edward East, my question has already been answered. Now for the Whampoa Garden project, discharge chamber, part of it is on Hong Kong Road. So what will the traffic arrangements be? Now second, about odor. Now for the pumping station in Whampoa Garden, if you walk by, you can smell some odor. And also at the junction near a private housing development, the odor is really strong. So we will take the opportunity to mitigate the odor as well. Many residents are looking forward to that. That has been mentioned in the paper as well, so I hope the government would address the issues in one go. Mr. Mok. That's the last burner I have been talking about. Now, thank you. Concerning emergency traffic arrangements, we will use open pit excavation for a part, and the other one we will use a trenchless excavation. Now, for the part along Hong Kong Road, there's a large parking bay for coach buses. So we will conduct phased operation on that part. So we'll make use of the parking bay to maintain the same number of carriageway lanes and conduct trenchless excavation. So for trenchless excavation, it will not cause significant impact on the traffic. Concerning odor, now this proposal is for maintaining and rehabilitating existing sewage rising mains, but we'll also take the opportunity to review the odor problem mentioned by the member. Now, sewage pumping station would create odor, so we will take the opportunity to mitigate the odor. So, of course, we will come up with a solution after the review. Next, Mr. Chen Pui-Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Now, the paper mentioned that where necessary, the trenchless excavation technology would be used. Now, actually, the cost for trenchless and open trench method has a significant cost difference. Now, for open trench is $30,000 per meter. For trenchless is $200,000 per meter. So the 2.8 kilometer long rising mains, how much of it will be conducted through trenchless method? And have you already included the estimation in the budgets? Now, second, about using technology to detect pipe leakage. That's the optic fiber sensors. Has this technology been applied to other pipes in other districts, and how effective is that?
Mr. Mok. The trenchless method adopted, it has a difference of about 3 times in cost compared to open trench method. there is an amount of $200,000 because there is a submarine section. We use a trenchless method. In short, but it involves a special technology because the work will be conducted underwater. So it's different in terms of methodology and machinery compared to other trenchless method, hence a higher cost. You see a breakdown in Annex 8 setting out open trench cost, trenchless cost, as well as a submarine cost. We have incorporated the different costs in our project. The funding we seek will cover the different construction method in relation to the use of fiber optics. In our project in Sunshak Bay, we have used fiber optics to detect leakage on a trial basis. We've just completed that project. We are still collecting data to assess the effectiveness. Next, Mr. Lam Chun Sing. The government said that in general, the system has a lifespan of about 20 years. And this set has been using for about 30 years or so. We'll have to wait for a few years for replacement. It seems that the system will go beyond that design life for about 10 years. So in the coming 10 years, will there be a higher risk of leakage? If there is, are there any ways to mitigate that? I remember some information from the administration. Currently, they conduct tests using closed circuit television to check for leakage once every 5 years. Is there a mechanism to accord priority to locations with detected leakage? Because if you do it district by district, then the location with leakage will worsen. There is a recurrent annual expenditure about $1.23 million, which is not high. However, it will have an impact on the future adjustments of sewage treatment charges. I'd like to ask how much the impact is going to be for the industrial and commercial sector. You're only going to recover the $1.23 million? Will there be further impact on the sewage charge? We have some statistics. In the past few years, when it comes to sewage rising mains, we have identified 16 leakages, out of which 8 of them are related to one sewage rising mains. That was in the Southern District, along Island Road. When we sought funding application in 2024, we needed to adopt the submarine boring technology underwater. Progress is satisfactory. Yes, the design life is 25 years. The systems we have identified have been in use for over 25 years. But is it the case that once they go beyond 25 years there will be serious leakage? No. We think that risk currently is controllable. The member also asked about testing. If it's a twin pipe, one will continue to operate, whereas the other one will cater for CCTV. That's the most effective monitoring method, whether it is a gravity system or not. If it's a single pipe, we have to use other methods. For gravity sewers, we conduct CCTV tests at least once every 5 years. We categorize the condition into 5 categories. First, Class 1 is the most serious. Class 4 are those with no immediate risk of collapse, but is a possibility in the future. We will arrange for rehabilitation work. We closely monitor classes 4 and 5 pipes. 1.23 recurrent expenditure. Let me give you something for reference. The revenue from sewage treatment surcharges about $1.5 billion, excluding subsidy. So 1.23 million is insignificant compared to 1.5 billion. There will be insignificant impact on the industrial and commercial sector. Mr. Andrew Lam. First, $1.23 million in annual recurrent expenditure. Yes, it is a low level. Compared to 2023 and 2021, there are 2 projects, one in Taipo, the other one is Yao Tong. For the 2 systems, there is a total length of 5.6 kilometers. In 2023, in Yuen Long, is 2.7 kilometers. So for the 2021 projects, the recurrent expenditure is about $910,000, and for the one in 2023, $970,000 in recurrent expenditure. What is the main cause for the increase for this project? In past projects, you will use trenchless methods because of the traffic. In Yuen Long South, there is a good method adopted. Will that be adopted in future sewage works, because it ensures safety and reduce costs as well as expedite progress? Members, I note the time. We need to put the item to vote, and there is a council meeting at 11. There are still 8 members waiting to speak. If you'd like to speak on this item, please make an indication as soon as possible. After we hear the reply from the administration, I will draw a line. Please make good use of the time. I will only extend the meeting by 15 minutes because we need to prepare for the council meeting. The meeting is scheduled to end at 10:30. I will extend the meeting by maximum 15 minutes. We have other items in a pipeline, but I ask for members help in completing this item? We hear from Mr. Mock. Thank you. First, in relation to the recurrent expenditure, 1.23 million covers two amounts. The first, about $500,000, is maintenance and repair. And the other one is in relation to the use of innovative technology, that is using optical fiber for detection. We have set aside about $700,000 to use innovative technology. We will review the effectiveness of the new technology before we decide whether to use this as the standard approach. We have been collecting data in relation to the project at Sunset 1. If it's proved to be effectiveness, yes, we will continue to use it. Otherwise, we may not. So that's the situation. Trenchless method. It actually is an umbrella term. There is piped jacking, which is widely used in Hong Kong. The other one is submarine boring, that's particularly useful in an underwater project. There is another one, UTPM, that's used in Yuen Long South. I was involved in that project. I strongly supported the use of this method. Government departments have been actively exploring the use of new technology. Next, Miss Michelle Tang. Please be succinct so that we'll have time to complete the process. Miss Tang, thank you. There will be rehabilitation work for 5 locations, and these systems have been in use for 29 years, way beyond the service life. I support the funding application. Just now, the administration talked about detection and monitoring. You said that for current systems, CCTV is used, but for this project, fiber optics are used. So will both be used, or will CCTV be excluded? My second question is about the design life of the system. What is the design life for the project? There will be changes in population, society will change. Will you make adjustments to your design? What I don't want to see is that you come back to ask for more funding in a few years. Director. For single pipe design, after the project, they will be turned into twin pipe. The main merit is that we can stop one rising main, and we use a CCTV to monitor the condition of the pipe. That's ideal. The reason we want to use fiber optics as an additional measure, there are merits in terms of cost. So the use of fiber optics in the system won't be high, and the accuracy is higher. CCTV relies on a visual inspection. Fiber optics can collect data on changes of temperature and vibration, so it gives us a different dimension in the surveillance of the condition. We can also use it to gauge the remaining lifespan of the system. We use polystyrene with high density to replace existing pipes. The design life will be increased to about 50 years.
Next, Mr. Chan Hock Fong. Thank you, Chairman. My questions is on the projects in the Southern District. The first one in Sheko. You will use the trenchless method to conduct the operation through the bay. Now that's great because that will not block the access of the residents. Now since you are going through the sea, in the long run there may be the risk of leakage. And how can you be sure that those leakages will not contaminate the bay? Now maintenance for submarine sewage rising mains is more complicated than those underground. Now for the one in Ap Lei Chau, the session is quite long, and most of the project takes place near a housing estate. And that's also a major access or major road used by the driving school. So have you communicated with the stakeholders? Now, in front of the shopping mall, the plaza, during weekday, the Stanley Plaza is not busy, but during weekend, there are lots of visitors. So now the project will take place in an area with high traffic near the Stanley Plaza. So how can you ensure that the visitor's experience will not be adversely impacted during the weekend? Now, thank you. About the one in Sheko, the alignment will go through the rock layers. So the HDPE pipes we are using will have a longer lifespan than the existing one. It's beyond 25 years. With the protection of the rock layers compared with other pipes underground with high traffic and also roads with frequent maintenance projects ongoing, the risk would even be lower. Now, the HDPE technology has been tried and tested internationally. Now, there are studies showing that with the protection of the rock layers, like other public utilities in Hong Kong, it will be even of lower risk. Now, about the public consultation, at the design stage and planning stage, we have already communicated with the nearby stakeholders, including the property management office as well as the driving school. We have explained the emergency traffic diversion in the future, which are supported by them. Now, about Stanley, during weekends and holidays, there will be more traffic. So we will implement special measures to allow construction projects only during weekdays and on busy hours. Mr. Lau Ka-keung. Thank you, Chairman. Now, the paper said that the rising main system has been in operation for 29 years, exceeding the design lifespan. Now, when there are leakages, the water quality of the nearby beaches and the bay will be contaminated. So it is necessary to replace and rehabilitate the rising main. So I support upgrading the program to Category A at a cost of $348 million. Now, these are my questions. Paragraph 7 says that by replacing the single pipe design with twin pipe design, the sewage system will be more stable. Now, paragraph 3E, the rising mains in Prince Edward Road East and Sampogong will be using single pipe sewage rising mains. Now, this is a very busy area with high footfall and vehicular traffic. So why are we still using single pipe sewage rising main instead of twin pipe design, which is more stable? Now, there are concerns about repeated excavation as well as open trench operation on roads. That puts a huge cost on the public. Now, is there coordination between different departments, including the DSD, the Transport Department, the Highways Department, and CDD, to combine their projects into one so as to prevent repeated open trench operation? Now, concerning the project near Sheko, there are several beaches in Sheko, and it is the swimming season between June and October. So will the project lead to road and beaches closure during that period? So would you consider starting the project before or after the swimming season? Please be succinct, Mr. Mok. 3 questions. Thank you. Now, for Prince Edward Road East, there is already an existing sewage rising mains. Now, a spare sleeve has already been put in place, so we only need to lay an additional pipe in the sleeve, so it will still be a twin pipe design. At the design and planning stage, we have already communicated with other public utility departments. Now, this can avoid simultaneous excavation projects being taken forward at the same time. Now, about beach, our works do not involve closure of beaches because we will only conduct drilling in between the rock layers, and for other parts we will use trenchless operation, so there's no need for beach closure. Ms. Christine Fong. Thank you, Chairman. There are 5 beaches. There's also the water quality of the Victoria Harbour to consider, so I support all the projects. Now, the department said there have been 16 pipe leakage. Now, those leakage incidents caused by excavation or operations by other contractors. Now, I support the use of fiber optics to detect leakages. However, if the underground utility record is not properly kept, other contractors may inadvertently damage the pipes. So we will have the 5-year plan soon. So these proposals are about Kowloon and the Southern District. So which districts will be next? Now, the pumping station in Yao Mei Hall in Shai Kung, as well as Potoi O's sewage stations, those are well done. But there is not a timetable yet for Hang Hao. Now, will there be what will the priority be? Now, about the submarine parts of the rising mains, how frequent will you maintain the submarine pipes? Now, the second question is about the 5-year plan. So it's a policy matter. We have discussed that at the meeting of the panel on environmental affairs. So we welcome supplementary information from the government in written form after the meeting. Now, concerning leakage, Mr. Mok, please. I thank Ms. Fong for her support. Now, about the 16 incidents of leakages over the past few years. There were many factors behind the occurrence of those leakages. Some are human errors, some are not. So it's very difficult to pinpoint the reason. In any event, we would conduct emergent maintenance operation once we detected the leakages. But if there are indeed human errors on the part of contractors, we will hold them accountable. Now, this funding proposal does not cover the other projects we have in place. The distribution of sewage pumping stations differ across the territory. So the criteria is the age of the pumping station. When they are 25 years old, we will replace them. Now there are lots of projects in Yuen, Tsuen, Kwai and Tai Po. So we will cover the entire territory. So the once in every 5-year maintenance project is the minimal requirements. For high-risk rising mains experiencing leakages before, we will conduct more frequent maintenance. Now for Tier 5 cases, we will deal with them immediately. For Tier 4 cases, if resources allow, we will also conduct maintenance for them more frequently. Now for submarine rising mains, they are between rock layers. So the requirements for maintenance and the risk pertained are lower. Now we are upgrading the width of the diameter of the pipes from 220 millimeters to 40 millimeters. I mean the thickness of the pipe. So the cost of that is minimal. Now please note that I will extend the meeting by 15 minutes. Please keep your questions succinct so that we can proceed with the remaining procedures. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, Chairman. 2 questions. Now, how does the department decide whether the open trench or trenchless methods are used for a certain project? And by using the trenchless method, what is the difference in terms of time required as well as the cost? Now, will the contractors hire non-local construction workers for these projects? Mr. Mok. Now, in terms of priority, we would prioritize the use of open trench method. Now, because of various factors, including the volume of traffic and the existence of underground facilities, utilities, that would bring higher risk, and we would choose trenchless method instead. Now, in terms of cost, trenchless method is 3 times more expensive than the traditional open trench method. The third question about the use of non-local workers. Now, the construction costs are not too high. It's just several $100 million, so we are not using non-local laborers. Mr. Mark Chong. Thank you, Chairman. 2 questions. Now, the project covers rising mains in 5 locations. Now, paragraph 8 mentioned that those rising mains have been in operation for more than 29 years, for some 36 years. So as far as I know, the lifespan of rising mains are usually 25 years. So why are you waiting until they are 29 or even 36 years old? Now, the paper says that the target is to complete the project in phases in 3 years. So by phases, does it mean the projects will be completed on different dates? Or does it mean that different sections of the same projects will be completed on different dates? So can I have the timetable of the completion of various projects? Now, there is the Water Intelligence Network. That's the water supplies department's system. So will the DSD install sensors for the water intelligence projects in your projects?
Oh,
Mr. Mark. 25 years is the design life. But our experience tells us that that is not the deadline. It's not that in year 26 the pipes will collapse or leak. But there is no fixed time when a pipe starts to leak. We carry out the projects in an orderly manner. The pipes have been in use for over 25 years, but the risk is still not that high. The project will take 3.5 years because the project covers different locations. The shortest one will be completed in 28 months, and the longest is about 3.5 years. That depends on the complexity of the system. In relation to the smart system, we have about $100,000 earmarked to test the use of a new technology. So the real-time monitor system, does it achieve the same effect as optical fibers? Yes. I may see this from a different perspective because I'm in engineering. You said there is a design life of 25 years. You have chosen locations in Stanley, Ap Lei Chau. But when it comes to pipes in the urban area, the wear and tear may be more serious. Yes, there may be 16 instances of leakage. But sometimes there is urgency. Do you have a separate assessment on wear and tear and the leakage at certain locations? Would there be some kind of guideline? Or instead of just replacing the pipes at the 16 locations with a leakage? Well, this is a 300 millimeter diameter pipe. I think that, well, if you use certain methods, things may be different. It's very rare that we use a twin pipe system, but I understand that, well, if there is problem with one, we still have another one. We're talking about a sewage pipe, 300 millimeters. In densely populated areas, there is a chance that both pipes will leak. I don't see any urgency or any reports that is so dilapidated that they will have to be replaced. This is a complicated matter. We think that for these sections there is an urgency for replacement. We consider the use of single or twin pipe. There is a mechanism in place. It's a risk-based approach. Age is one factor, but we also look at the location, whether it is subsurface or above surface, and the impact on facilities as well as traffic. Then we work out the schedule and time needed for replacement and rehabilitation. Then we give them different classes and embark our project in orderly manner. I will give you further explanation about the single and twin pipe design on another occasion, but there is a need for twin pipe system. Hong Kong is densely populated. Without another pipe, when one breaks down, then the system will ground to a halt. So the twin pipe design has been put in use starting from a few years ago. Mr. Andrew Yao, I support the funding application of 447DS. Now we talk about the use of new quality productive forces and to enhance governance. This can be incorporated in a grander picture, say for example cross-district risk monitoring system. The condition of these riser mains can be incorporated in city management. When it comes to different utilities, the systems will be under close monitoring and surveillance in a greater picture. Mr. Yao, this project is in relation to rehabilitation and construction of sewage rising mains in Kowloon and Southern District. Mr. Yao's point is on a macro level, more about policy. Anything to say, Mr. Mok? We will actively consider it. Next, Mr. Tommy Chung. I support the project. The system, the pipes have been in use for quite some time. There will be about 8,000 tons of waste generated. Some will be reused. So in relation to the higher rate of recyclable materials, where will they be used? Who decides when and where to use the recyclable waste? Do you have an accumulative amount of waste generated and the amount saved from reusing the waste? At the stage of planning and design, we will have more information about construction waste and the amount of recyclable waste. We will work out a detailed proposal. We aim to increase the rate of reuse. And as to whether there are any figures territory-wide, I'm afraid we don't have the figures. Members, that's the end of the question session. I now put this item to vote. Those who are in favor of PWSC 2026-27 number 3, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. 1. I think majority of members who have voted support the proposal. The proposal is endorsed. Next, in relation to further discussion by the FC, now under the Public Works Subcommittee Procedure 41A, I put the question to vote. The subcommittee recommends further discussion of PWSC 2026-27 number 3 by the Finance Committee. Let me remind members, if the question is passed, it means the subcommittee recommends further discussion by the FC. If it is vetoed, it means the subcommittee does not recommend further discussion by the FC. Those who are in favor, please raise your hands. 1. Those against, please raise your hands. I think members who have voted oppose to the question. So the question is vetoed. The subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of PWSC 2026-27 number 3 by the FC. The items approved today will be considered by the Finance Committee in June or thereafter. Date of the next meeting. The date of the next meeting will be the 3rd of June at 8:30 to 10:30. Members, please attend. As per the request of the subcommittee, we have some additional meetings in June and July. The Secretariat has already issued a notice to members about the detailed arrangement. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Also thank government officials for attending this meeting. Thank you.